In a previous video, we showed you how to use FlyoverKit to create a tour of some of the world's greatest monuments. In this application, we'll use Apple's speech recognition to allow our users to say where it is they want to go inside of our app. Let's see how it works. Here's a quick tour of our storyboard. We've got a map view, a button, and a label. The button is what's going to get the bulk of the changes, and we'll get to that shortly. But first, we need to add a few rows to our info.plist file. Both of these are going to have to do with our speech recognition. The first one is a privacy line for the speech recognition usage description. This is letting the user know why we're asking for speech recognition. In this case, it's to say a monument and watch your words become text and the map go to the monument. We also have to get permission to use the microphone. So under privacy, again, the microphone usage description just lets them know that when they hit the button, their speech will be recorded. Okay, so that's all for the info.plist. Let's get set up for our code. Over in our view controller, first of all, I'm just going to take this big dictionary and move it down to the bottom so that we don't have to keep reading it and scrolling past it. Next, we're going to get rid of the code that's inside of the location button clicked, since we'll be changing the way it works. In view.load, I'm just going to create some space for now, and then we'll head up and import the speech framework. Then we'll head down to the view controller and declare it as a SF speech recognizer delegate. Down below this, we're going to declare some variables. The first one is the user input location. This will be a flyover awesome place that we'll set from the speech recognition, but for now we'll default it to Eiffel Tower. Then we'll create a speech recognizer using the locale of ENUS. Next, we'll create a recognition request object using the audio buffer recognition request class. And then we'll create a recognition task. And finally, we'll initialize the audio engine using AV audio engine. All right, now down in map setup, we need to default our camera to fly over our initial view and also provide a mechanism for our camera to update later from speech recognition. So we'll create a flyover camera object using the map view. The duration will be 6 seconds like last time, 300 meters, 45-degree pitch, and a heading step of 20. This time we'll set the camera to start with the self.user input location that'll correspond to our speech recognition. Then we'll use the dispatch queue to run some code on the main thread after .now plus 9 seconds. We'll call for the camera to stop inside of the execute block once we're done with the animation. Okay, now back up in view.load. Let's get our speech recognition ready. We'll set the speech recognizer delegate to ourself, and then we will set up the request authorization for speech recognition. This is where we ask the user for their permission to do speech recognition. So we'll switch over the status inside of that request, and if it's authorized, we'll set our button state to true. This is going to control whether that record button is enabled or not, and we'll log out that permission was received. In case it was denied, we'll set the button state to false, and then log out that the user did not give us permission to do speech recognition. Okay, the next case in this switch is not determined, so we couldn't figure out whether they gave us permission or not. So still button state of false, since we don't have an affirmative authorized state. We'll print out that the speech recognition was not allowed by the user and move on. And finally, there is the restricted case. That means it doesn't work on this device. So we'll set the button state to false and print out that speech recognition is not supported on the user's device. Okay, now that we have all that done, we'll run some code on the main thread. Once again, this is to set the button. So we'll do self.locationButton.isEnabled equals button state. So to enable or disable the button, and then that calls self map setup. Down underneath view.load, we're going to have a big long function called start recording. So I've made a lot of space for it. If there's already a recognition task, i.e. if recognition task is not equal to nil, then we're going to cancel the current recognition task and set the recognition task equal to nil. Next, we're going to set the audio session equal to avaudioSession.sharedInstance. Next, we'll set up the audio session by setting its category. So we're going to set the category to record, and we're going to set the mode to measurement, and we're going to tell it to duck any other audio that's going on. Next, we'll set it to active, passing in true, and to notify others when it gets deactivated. Then we'll catch these can throw some errors, so if they do, we'll just say it failed to set up the audio session. Next, we're going to set up the recognition request as an SF speech audio buffering recognition request. That's a mouthful. Next, we'll set up an input node from audioengine.inputNode. Then we'll check to make sure that recognition request was able to be set up by using a guard statement, and if it wasn't, we'll just throw a fatal error, since we really need that to work, that says could not create request instance. All right, configuring this recognition request, we're going to set it to show partial results. So set that equal to true. And then we're going to start this task up. So recognition task equals speech recognizer.recognition task. And we're going to give that a completion handler, because this is going to operate asynchronously. Our completion handler has a result and an error parameter. And what we're going to be looking at here on the result is whether it's finalized or not. We're going to be forcing that by hitting the stop button on the speech recognition task. So this isLast property will be set to true. And down in this if error is not equal to nil or isLast block, we'll hit that after we hit the stop button. So this is where we're going to process our results. So we're going to stop the recognition. We're going to set the audio engine to stop. We're going to remove the input node's listening capabilities. We're going to set the recognition request to nil, and we're going to set the recognition task to nil. Then we're going to process the results. So what we're going to do is turn the button back on, because we know that the user just hit the stop button and the button got disabled. This is where we re-enable it. Then we're going to grab the best transcription that the speech recognition has gotten at this point by calling its formatted string property. Then we're going to check our location dictionary to see if it contains that best transcription string in any of its keys. If it is in the dictionary, then that means that this is a valid location that the person said. So we'll set the place label equal to what the user just said, and we'll set the input location equal to the value for that key. If it's not in the dictionary, then it's obviously not a valid place inside of our application, so we'll set the place labels text equal to can't find that in the dictionary, and we'll set the input location to a default. We'll just choose Central Park, New York this time. Once all that's done, we'll be able to call self.mapSetup to make the camera go to the location that the user said. Now that we have the handler set up for our recognition task, we need to start the audio process. So we're going to set the format on the input node for bus 0, that's the first bus, and install the listening tap on that bus with a buffer size of 1024 and passing in that output format. Once we have that buffer inside of this handler, we'll just pass it over to the recognition request by appending the buffer into it. With all of that in place, we're ready to start up the audio engine. So we'll first call audioengine.prepare to get it ready. And then inside of a do block, so that we can catch errors, we'll try audioengine.start. If we're unable to get it started, this catch block will trigger. So we'll just print out that we weren't able to start the engine. Now I'll just clear up some white space here and reformat everything. And then we'll take a quick just pan over the code, make sure we don't have any, oh, there's one, found an error. I didn't unwrap that optional. Here's a full look at that function. I've got the GitHub repo down in the description if you weren't able to follow along with all of that, but this is what does our speech recognition for this application. With all of that in place, let's go down to our button clicked event. This is the last thing we need to get set up here. That's what actually kicks off the speech recognition. So we first check to see if the audio engine's running. If it is, that means that this was a button click for stop. So we'll stop the audio engine and we'll set the recognition request to end its audio. We'll set the location button is enabled to false. As you saw before, we re-enable that back up when we process the results. We'll set the title of the button to record. Otherwise, we need to kick off the start recording. So we'll call start recording. We'll set the title to stop for the normal state. Okay, we've written all the code. It's time to test to see if this works. I'm going to build and run this on my physical device, and I'm going to say OK to access speech recognition. Then when I tap the click me button, I'm going to say OK for access to the microphone, and I'm going to say Apple HQ. There it goes. There's Apple HQ, and it'll animate for 6 seconds before coming to a stop, and then we can tap record and try another one. I'll try Big Ben this time. There it is. There's Big Ben loading in and animating. Another 6 seconds around on that one, and we'll be good to test one more time by tapping that record button and heading over to Statue of Liberty. And there it is. That is the speech recognition for this FlyoverKit application. That's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider clicking the subscribe button over on the left. If you want to watch another video, I picked one out just for you in the top right, and if you're looking for the code, there's a button in the bottom right for that. Until next time, I'm out of here.